we were talking, you have all the four age spirit, and
Yes.
we do have the bourbon and the rye.
Bourbon here ready, the most righteous bourbon. I have everything. I have the rye.
You have the rye and you have the wood whiskey, the fearless.
I have yes, I have it all, and it's again. We are live right here on our nightly Bourbon Blog Live with Pietro Bortolotti from Catskill Distilling Company in upstate New York. And amazingly, where you're at in New York, you are actually near in Bethel, near where Woodstock first happened, right?
Yes, we are. The distillery estate is right borderline with the estate that now become a foundation, and is a landmark in our area because represented the most older tourist attractions and cultural attractions.
Still quite a big tourist attraction.
Yes, and we celebrate last year the 50th anniversary. So they all very old like me, and it was fun. The concert didn't happen in Woodstock, happened in Bethel, the people. Some people don't know, but
you're close, like right next to each other, or they're
very. I mean, we are borderline with their estate. So from our distillery to the main entrance for the concert is like a 7-minute walk or 10 minutes walk.
Cool.
So that creates also a lot of people coming through, and because of that, so is a strategic position. Besides being in a beautiful area geographically and nature, this is what got me stuck there because the wildlife is amazing. I miss my tall mountain, but I can manage. I can manage with those hills, and when the cloud emerging from the sunset, I imagine my old mountain covered with snow. But it's okay because I'm from the high mountain. So
very nice.
Anyway, another particular thing is that in the upstate New York, a lot of people don't know, but is the agriculture is very strong. It's one of the thriving, economical industries. So, like we were mentioning, the Catskill is using 99% local grains. So, you mentioned we have the bourbon, which is predominantly corn.
You want me to let's pull that up here? The most righteous bourbon from Catskill Distilling Company, and I'm really a big fan. If you can see, there's not a whole lot left. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you got something left there. So
I got some left though. We're gonna pour this. We're gonna talk about it. If you all have any questions on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching this live, ask us down below for Pietro Bortolotti. Again, Catskill Distilling Company. So many great whiskeys coming out of New York, and this is really one of the most unique. And how many states are you all in? Where can people find you?
We are in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and we also are down in Florida. We are in Washington State. And along the East Coast, you can find us in Delaware, Washington, and Maryland.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah. What I was trying to say is that the agriculture in our area is pretty strong, and so the predominant ingredient for the bourbon, the corn, and for the rye, and for the wheat, we also have a unique aged spirit that cannot be called whiskey because it's distilled from buckwheat.
I have that right here, the buckwheat.
There you go. But you should open that baby and
which one do you want to try first? Let's taste a
little. No, I was going on with the grain. So the buckwheat we have.
The buckwheat's really interesting, by the way. It's really
started as an experiment. A very hard experiment because the buckwheat doesn't work like corn or the other friends. It's not a grain, it's a pseudo grain, come from a different family, and therefore we cannot call it whiskey.
Right.
But it's very hard to work with. Okay, and I don't want to go through the details of the clumps that you have during fermentation.
It's tougher to actually ferment to do what? What makes it tougher?
Tougher is that the fermentations and the distillation has to be done with the skill and experience that you develop when you screw up a few times. Okay,
You know,
because
well, I say you perfected it. You must have really gone through some.
oh yeah. Now we learned a few tricks, and it's a unique spirit. You should try. It's totally different on the typical American whiskey, which that sweetness is kind of a bridge between somehow between Scottish whiskey in terms of the final product. It is produced American style. It's aged like a bourbon in new barrel, oak barrel, and so on. And is 80% buckwheat and 20% malted barley. So is a kind of unique brand that we have, unique product that the Catskill produce.
It is so interesting. Now I have the bourbon poured. That was the first one I went because we were mentioning the bourbon. I had the bourbon poured. Okay. I love the label on it. It's the labeling in the bottle. It just kind of looks like a brand that has been around for 50 years. I love that. I love like the old school label. It really speaks something very special, I think, in whiskey. Tell us about this most righteous. Why do you call it that? And tell us about the whiskey.
But because he's righteous, because the novelty about finding a name for your product has to reflect something in your nature and your character. Right. And I guess the founder was finding themselves righteous, but more than the package, the orange rope doesn't make the monk, right? So more than the package is the contents.
The whiskey's beautiful. It's very bold, and I get just the expression of grain on this, the barrel. It just really is something extremely clean and bold about it.
Tom is a craft spirit, is not an industrial spirit. So it is. I did have some observation to make. There's a lot of craft distillery that they don't get their act together. So sometimes you try some product, and to be polite, you say, "Oh yeah, like it's good, but they are not."
Right.
So I do not make this comment to put the big industry down. The big industry, they have skill, they have professionalism, they know what they're doing. Right. Don't get me wrong. But the industrial product definitely is totally different than a craft product. It's like you're going to a fast food restaurant or you're eating at your mother or grandmother house. It is different. It is different. And I can tell you that the Catskill doesn't know any tricks. So we are doing everything by the book. Okay, so it's no additive, it's no chemicals, is nothing of the above. Sometimes I have comment from some amateur that they come and say, "Wow, why it's so dark?" Because there's a very strong amber color, if you notice.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice.
Yeah.
And this comes from the barrels.
What is the proof on this? I'm trying to see.
It's 42, 85 proof.
85, yeah, 85. And it's about how old? How long do you age it for?
That one that you have there is most definitely 3 years old.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, we do have also some old inventory that are spectacular. However, so the color is coming from a char 4 barrels, and so is a kind of a little bit darker if you see it in the bottles. Another fundamental aspect, for example, is and we went through a lot of struggle on this, is the filtration. So we have manual filtration. We try to take off the impurity. You know, coming from a barrel, that you have some wood, you have some impurity.
Right.
But if you know, industrially, they chill filter, they use carbon filter. We are not doing any of those things. So sometimes in the previous year, our whiskey was kind of foggy.
Okay.
Because whiskey, after the distillations at that proof, at 85 proof,
right,
is not enough alcohol to dilute all of the fatty acids. But we want to leave it in, right? Because it's like taking the fat out of the bacon. So you know, like this is the correct things to do. Recently, we find some cutting edge filters that takes those fatty acids apart, but they are still present in the whiskey, and we gain a lot of nose, for example. Okay, because still those elements are still floating in the whiskey, but we clear up a little bit this fogginess, which is that doesn't appeal when you buy a bottle that is foggy. You start thinking that there's something is wrong, and only expert knows that
it's actually really good. Yeah.
However, if you are, you know, I don't want to get too technical about this, okay? But if you lower the temperature, like people normally drink whiskey with an ice cube or with cold water and so on. So you're reducing the temperature, you still have the fogginess coming back, and those particles start getting together.
Wow.
These they are pretty expensive, but it is not the point of those filters. They are giving us an incredible satisfaction in the final product. So the product is clearer, but all the flavors are still in it. And they are fundamental flavor.
You've kept those flavors that really give it some amazing life.
Yeah, this is something that you can do in the craft industry. You know, the craft industry now is being under a lot of pressure by this economical crisis and by this COVID-19. And so I hope that they will survive, because it is a challenge also for the big industry. It's a motivation for the big industry to come up with a special badge, a special blend, or a special productions. You know how the evolution in the industry is. Okay?
Yes.
So, but I want to mention it for all our colleagues and other small distillery is a tough time. It's really a super tough time.
Important to support craft right now, and it means a lot that great people like you, Pietro, coming on to talk to us about how important craft is. And
yeah, at least we try to. At least we're going to survive. I don't know what the world will be tomorrow or next year. We'll try to survive. You know, in our neighborhood. You know, like,
right.
Which is also very important. You know, if you have the support of the people and you manage to stay alive, you know, we create occupation, we create employees, we have our network, and it's kind of rhetorical, but this is what it is. So you are trying the bourbon.
So yeah, we're trying the bourbon, and we can
with all the ramifications.
Whichever that you would like to try next, you tell me. I mean, these are all, I've tried them all. I like them all. Where would you like to go?
Oh, you already did. So if you want to go to the rye, one of the main common denominator in our product is there was also an obsession, you know.
Right.
Is to have something extremely smooth. You know, talking about hard liquor, smooth. You know, you're thinking about this round flavor that appeal to the original distiller. And our whiskey are smooth. They are.
It is.
Okay. They are not like a punch in the face, and then they also stimulate the thinking, because there are many different aspects and many different flavor that comes up when you start drinking it. Yeah.
There's a lot of complexity. And as I think about this bourbon, I'm like, does this bourbon remind me of anything that I've had before? Because I can tell that it's a bourbon, but it doesn't exactly remind me of any bourbons I've had, which I like that about it. It has a lot of complexity, a lot of beauty, but it's not reminiscent of another bourbon. So it really stands in a category all its own.
Yeah, Tom, you have to stop me when I go off the line because I'd like really to talk about it.
No, I like hearing this.
Horizontally, but
you're very knowledgeable.
know,
how did you get your start in distilling? How did what was the what was your background? How did this whole thing happen?
I do have a doctorate degree in economics. So, but I don't like to be segregated in the box. So right. I like things that I love, and when I came across, I liked the team, and I stayed to try to develop something interesting and put that kind of now don't look me wrong, that kind of an intellectual spin and giving narrative, if I give you a painting of Picasso without talking about, okay, who is a child of 5 years old that did this? Yeah, it's very difficult to paint like a child,
right?
Like Picasso was saying, took me 2 years to learn how to paint like Renoir, took me 50 years to paint like a child, but so you have to create narratives,
right?
And narratives is to be patient and listen, to those aspects that are fundamental to appreciate things like whiskey, which are pleasures of life, like food. You don't drink whiskey because, unless you're an alcoholic, it's because you want to enjoy yourself.
You want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy the flavors.
Was an old commercial by Lavazza, the coffee, Italian coffee, that was saying, portrayed by a major Italian actor, who says, coffee is a pleasure. If it's no good, what kind of pleasure is that? So, come on, it's a pleasure, so let's use it as a pleasure. Okay.
I know. Well, you probably are a big fan of what you like. You like coffee. You like different types of coffee.
No, it just was a similitude about
right. I was going to say, I can see how your whiskey would be amazing in a coffee. The right coffee would be beautiful. It'd be really
nice. In this cold winter, I was using a lot of toddies. You call it toddies, hot water, and a little twist of lemon and a little bit of sugar, and you can get a buzz right there, and it's a good buzz. I was always criticized because people say, okay, the flavor, the nose, the finish, but there's also a fourth aspect. In the wine business, the color, the transparency, the bouquet, and the tongue, and the palate, and so on, is how you get high on that product. Is
that's another aspect, right?
Is very important. It's very important. And how you feel like you have 3 or 4 the day after. You wake up with a clear head, or you wake up with a box of Advil next to your side table, because in this industry is a lot of chemistry, also involved, just to make the famous Bock, increase control flavor, control production, control all of this. No conspiracy theory, reality. So a craft distillery, unless the distiller doesn't know what he's doing, it is a good choice. The market tendency is also to drink less and to drink better.
I think that's important.
Yes. This crisis, I don't know how it's going to end up. We all kind of drink bean whiskey, So, but we'll see how the thing goes. But
that fourth aspect, I mean, the chemistry that you put into this, when you think about how it will feel, whether someone drinks a little or they have several, is that something you think about when you create your whiskey? I mean, how it feels to the being when you're putting the science behind your whiskey?
You have to say that again, because I didn't catch the.
Oh, sure. Well, you were talking about the nose, the finish, the taste, but you said the fourth aspect of how people feel once they It just
Yeah,
with
that
your
is.
science, how do you go about approaching the distillation and making it something that
You don't cheat. You don't cheat.
Okay.
That is the only way, because if you cheat, you will have a different product, and you will have a different body chemistry reaction to this. Okay,
Right.
so you in this field, you should listen to all the drinkers, because all drinkers are more sensitive. You know, they already reached that limit. You know, they are saturated. You know, a young stomach, a young liver can support everything and can filter everything. If you are doing anything by straight ahead, no cheating, you will not have heartburn. You will not have headaches. You will have a natural buzz from a good whiskey. And it's very hard to explain, but that comes with tons of mileage.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the distillation and does it go back to every part of it, the aging, the distillation, everything? Or mainly distillation?
More is the distillation, and before the distillation, the key is the mashing and the fermentation.
Right.
This is where you are cheating. Right. Then is a cheap cheating. But this is when you have these, enzymes and yeast, the percentage, the quality. All our whiskeys are sour mash, for example, which is an important thing. So with it's like doing sourdough with the dough of the day before, you do the bread of the day after, and so on. I emphasize and insist on this aspect about the fact that our whiskey are natural. So this is what it is when you distill. Okay, with the help of top-notch machinery. You know, we do have different distillation. We have a first distillation with one still, a second distillation with another still. You know, copper is all over. You know, copper and alcohol, they are married. You know, staying still doesn't work. And all this process of, for example, of resting and then distilling again and resting and filter and resting is very important. If you visit a mega distillery, you know, the wagon with grain goes in on one side, and on the other side you have the liquid coming down for the barrel. So everything is automatic. You know, in our business, you don't expect to find a lot of Einsteins, you know, but we have people checking their pad 3 times because, I got it right, and, you know, measuring and controlling, you know, the craftsmanship. Craftsmanship is all about that. And you stay next to a carpenter is measuring 3 times, you know, it's 3 inches, but he's measuring 3 times to make sure that it's not 3 inches and an eighth, you know, like just to make sure that everything is copacetic.
Absolutely. And the quality of grains as you were mentioning earlier, you use, it's basically almost 100% local New York grains in all of these.
Yeah, we used to be at 80% because we are not malting our rye, our barley, and we used to buy it from Canada.
Right.
Which is a large producer, and they have fantastic product. 5 years ago, in New York State, we have lucky that somebody took it, and they did a fantastic plan to malt grain. You know, is a malt house,
right?
Because of the increase of business by brewery and by distillery, so it was a natural. End of the state of New York that didn't have a devoted business that was specialized on malting. You know, malting is a fascinating process. You know, we are producing American whiskey, so malt barley is just a percentage, is 15, 20%. For example, in our rye, we have 70% rye,
Wow.
just to give you and 10% malted rye.
And that's
then we have the rye.
In the rye. Should we? Maybe I'll go for the rye next. I'm gonna.
Yeah, the rye is spectacular. I think is one of the top in the country. My opinion.
Beautiful rye, and I like how I'll give you my notes, but I like how there are these.
That is idiot proof, you know. Like you want to know what
they're very helpful. But anyway, the bourbon was so clean. I'll say this: the bourbon was so clean. It did everything from like orange zest to like barrel to like this clean flavor. The char was there. It was just extremely well balanced. I mean, it's such a solid bourbon. The first time I ever had it, I said, "This is like, one of the most solid bourbons ever." It's like.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Really good stuff. And the rye is beautiful too. So let's try this. The rye, about 3-4 years old. Tell us a little bit about the.
It also is a 3-4. To be able to market straight bourbon or straight rye has to be minimum 2 years.
Right.
Our whiskey are 3 years. What you're drinking is at least 3 or 3.5.
Right.
Yes.
And it tastes, again, to me, because you've done it so well, it tastes a lot older. I mean, it's very complex.
Yes, correct. That is what we are getting. So, for example, our rack houses are. They have a sophisticated heating system.
Right.
And monitor, the temperature is monitored all the year long. Imagine, and this is what I go off the subject a little bit.
I like it. It's helpful to understand.
If you go to Cuba or to Puerto Rico or Guatemala, where they are making fantastic rum, and I guess you like rum as well.
I love it. Yeah, we love rum.
Okay, what is the advantage of this latitude? Tropical latitude, that they have a lot of heat. So the wood and the spirit inside aging is solicited to exchange between the liquid and the wood all the possible flavor that the wood contains. This is why rum from that latitude are fantastic. Whiskey is the same thing. Whiskey is the same thing. Whiskey need cold and need hot.
Right.
There has to be again technical a little bit. Some of the flavor coming from the wood cannot pass from the wood to the liquid if the temperature doesn't reach a certain degree.
You have to have it in and out with this.
This is physics, okay. If it doesn't reach 90, it doesn't go through, like you stay there, protect it, this year I'm not going to give it to you. So a good whiskey should go through this curve of temperature, which the cold is fundamental, the resting is fundamental, but also the summer heat.
Right.
The summer heat. And if we don't have summer heat, or we don't have enough of that heat, we have, as I said, it is sophisticated, expensive is to heat out these houses. Okay, so we turn the temperature to a certain level, and that give us that you just said taste much older.
It does. It does.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you.
It's an incredible. The bourbon and the rye. I've been a fan of both the Catskill straight rye whiskey, and I think this is 42.5%. Again, just about 3-ish years. And again, great. I mean, the notes on the side. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, I've seen the notes on the side, but you do get some of that. You'll get some of that creaminess. Some nice, just real. There's some great spice. There is the walnuts. I see. It's honeyed. There's a baking spice, kind of a creme brulee nature to it. You can tell it's a rye, but it comes across in a really elegant fashion that many ryes don't.
Yeah, if you want to go with your grandfather rye, with I love it. Okay, right. So I love it. Canadian rye. You know, like I'm a fan of Tom Waits. You know the singer Tom Waits.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so and I tried to sing like he does, but I can't. So and I tried to smoke a cigarette, and then I came across that he was drinking a certain rye. Okay, and I went to buy it. It was like wow, impossible to drink it because it was super hardcore. You know, super hardcore. Now, if it's a pleasure, that is a pleasure. That rye is a pleasure.
It really is. It's very elegant. I could see how it would be paired nicely with cuisine, or even I haven't yet made a cocktail out of it, but I bet the flavors that are native to that rye would come in a cocktail.
Among bartenders, we are we are welcome to do this kind of a cocktail show and mixologies courses and so on because they mix well. They mix well. So when you have a cocktail, it's like this is a fantastic Manhattan. You know, this is a fantastic So
clean. I mean, really clean. Though it's bold, clean finish on both of these. I can tell the distillation, the thought process. I'm sure the rest will be, but the finish is just so clean, crisp. These are great. About what kind of price point are we looking at for the bourbon and the rye both?
But the bourbon and the rye and the wheat whiskey, you can find it at around $40, $42, $38, according to the policy of the retailers.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, it's really amazing stuff.
So they are affordable. It is many tiers in the liquor business. So the wholesaler, the retailer, the broker, so it is
right. Definitely great price, and go online. I'm sure there's some places online you can order this.
Yes, it is. We are allowed, because of this emergency, we are allowed to deliver in the entire states of New York to private. Before it was only the outlet of the distillery they can sell, but we do have distribution. You can find it in liquor store and so. But try the wheat whiskey.
The Fearless.
The Fearless is also.
I love this. It's like is it kind of like these old school pictures? It's really, I love this, the packaging.
You know why? Because Tom, I tell you something. Where are you located, Tom?
I'm right on the border of Indiana and Kentucky.
Okay, Indiana and Kentucky. So we have this kind of nostalgia label because the upstate New York was a mafia land. Okay, so next to us was the house of Major Waxy Gordon, was a Jewish mafia that he was killed in that house, and he's right a mile, 2 miles from our distillery. So.
Okay.
So we come up with this Fearless, and we put this kind of retro label that is pretty cute. It's very nice, the label, I think. But
and this is one of those characters on the label.
Some of those characters are this is just an old picture, but the house next, if you turn the bottles, the house, the original house of Waxy is the headquarters of Waxy Gordon.
Very nice. I like it. And hence the name Fearless.
The Fearless is, if I don't tell you anything about what it is, you said this is a goddamn good whiskey. But it's not a bourbon, it's not a rye. So this is what the market is going through. With whiskey.
Yeah, that wheat, of course, is going to make it softer.
It's sweeter. Yeah.
Oh man, it's nice. And you do see some distilleries releasing wheat whiskeys. They're not something you see every day. What inspired you to do a wheat whiskey?
But just you have the wheat, you make the whiskey, and it comes out well, and you believe that so you have something else to offer.
Right.
The production is 50% bourbon, 30% rye, 30% rye. And the other 20% is a little bit of Fearless and that buckwheat that I beg you to try because I'm originally more inclined, and you know, I developed when you know in the years I was a Scotch drinker. So.
Right.
But the buckwheat is getting me, you know, like neat with a couple of cubes.
Oh, it's so nice, and there's this nice subtlety about this fearless as well. The subtlety is just really a lot of delicate kind of notes.
That is a 40 years old that you're having.
Oh wow, it's so
because it doesn't sell that much. So.
So what do you most enjoy for the fearless? Do you pair it with anything? Do you do any cocktails? Do you have any favorite things to do with it?
Fearless out of the box is a beautiful liquor to drink neat.
Yes.
And for cooking is amazing.
You would actually cook with this one.
Also, we have developed a few recipes on that one.
It's very nice. The nose is so nice. What recipes have you developed?
Scallops with fearless.
Oh wow, I bet that would be nice. And then do you
scallops with shallots, a little bit of saffron and cream, and flambe with whiskey. Then which, you know, you can use it because we are distiller. You know, like it's like being in Jamaica and ask for a joint. You know, like yeah, go ahead, smoke.
So you put this in the scallops and then you drink it along the side of the scallops. Then.
Yeah, and then there's the pair with.
Wow,
you like the wheat whiskey? I can
do.
see.
It's very nice. I think the subtleties and the really elegant, delicate nature of it makes it really just a really pretty whiskey to drink. And I can see with something like a seafood how it could really just be a very nice accentuating flavor. It's very nice. It's very tasty.
Yeah. And as usual, my Cinderella buckwheat is the last one of the group.
They're all delicious. Now tell us again, you can't actually call the buckwheat a whiskey, and why is that?
Because buckwheat is not a grain. Act looked like it's being implemented as a grain. You know, buckwheat is very expensive, by the way.
Right.
You know, is a natural comes from the rhubarb family.
So it's something like a rhubarb then.
Yeah, when you grain it, you obtain a flour, and it's fantastic to make. The soba in Japan. They make pasta. They make pasta pillow, ravioli, or this stuff. In Russia, they use it as a side dish to get those starches in it.
So
in my trip to China, let me just tell you, in my trip to China, I discovered stuff that I don't even drink because I'm very ignorant about it. You know, I'm bragging about my buckwheat, and then I didn't know anything about it.
No, I love it.
First of all, they have 27 different type of, and out of these 27, lucky us, we are using a buckwheat that is also medicinal. So the Chinese are implementing the buckwheat after distillation as a tonic, as a digestive, as something that if you have any disturb of your digestion, you drink this, but no aged. It's just a spirit like a vodka, and you add some water.
So they would put it in a vodka sometimes. Is what they would do.
Excuse me.
They would put the buckwheat in the vodka, or you're saying like a
no. They use it as a neutral spirit, and they add up water and they drink it as a medicament.
Is this one of the only buckwheats in the U.S. that's made like this?
With that high percentage, yes.
Wow, it's so interesting. And someone just asked, are the recipes, the food recipes, or any of the cocktail recipes up on your website that you're talking about, or are they?
Yes, you can find it. Yes, yeah. But the buckwheat, sometimes I saw some distillery in Tennessee. They were doing a blend with 15% of buckwheat and then corn and rye and so on. But 80%, you know, I don't know if you ever made polenta, Tom. Did you ever cook polenta?
We've done it before. It's been a little while. I do like.
Okay, so if you don't stir it correctly, it creates like clumps and it sticks everywhere, and you cannot get it right.
Right.
Listen, the first impact is totally different. Okay?
It enters the palate, and you think to yourself, now,
what is it?
It kind of is like a whiskey, but it has this earthy, smoky note, and it goes a lot of places on the tongue. How do you describe it? Because this is really it's been a little while since I've tried this. I had tried it. It's been a little while since I had it. So
your description is pretty accurate.
Yeah,
okay, to me.
Very earthy, very.
It's one of those things that I can tell you about. For example, our club, our customer that comes to the distillery and they buy a case of bourbon, a case of rye, and 3 bottles of vodka and whatever. Okay, and they take it home and they come back after 6 months, whatever.
Right.
But we do have aficionados that comes and buy only the Buckwheat.
Wow.
And they are Scotch drinker.
I can see how Scotch drinkers would like this.
There you go. You see, you have the same feeling. Yeah, same feeling. So, and they said that this, every time I have some guests, I open a bottle and say, okay, let's see if you guess what is this. And people get nuts because they cannot get it.
Is when they try it. What do they guess?
They guess there is some extravagant Scotch whiskey, totally out of the framework. But they believe that it's made from malt, and in this case is a Buckwheat.
Of those malty notes, and I get some kind of like some rye notes too. Some of that kind of that spiciness, and a little of the, I mean, in a good way. Like
Come from the Buckwheat, Tom. Come from the Buckwheat.
Buckwheat, and you know how people say some rums have this funkiness that they really enjoy in a good way, and I like rums like that. It has kind of some of those really wild, funky, but beautiful notes that I think make a good rum too. Like really
unusual notes that you don't expect to get it. Yeah, I agree.
They're unusual. They're unexpected. Almost some saltiness in a kind of a nice way, and sort of like you being Italian originally, that sort of thing that you get on a nice like aged balsamic vinegar, right? It's like those things that a little bit of age and the earth and all those things will do. It's a very interesting expression. I really like this a lot. I think it's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for that. And also on the practical level, if you are a 5-drink person, before you start getting all that, with this one you can get up to 7, okay? Because it's super smooth, and you do not lose control.
Right. It's very.
But what I'm trying to say is leave you a clear mind. Okay.
Yes. These are all
meditation drink.
You have some other spirits. We have these 4. What are the other spirits you all do there?
No, we do just for a local production, because a distillery can distill anything. My father was telling me when I was going with him to making grappa, how the hell are you making alcohol from that? You can make alcohol from your shoes if you want, like everything you can make alcohol.
Right.
Some of these recipes are, some of these products like bourbon, like rye, like buckwheat, like they need to be cured, that need to be followed, need to be precise. To making vodka is distilling. You squeeze everything in, and then you prove it up to 40, and you have your vodka. If you make it from rye or from corn or from wheat, there's some little different notes, but it's pure alcohol. Basically, it's a neutral alcohol. So we do some vodka and we do some gin, but it's a very small production, and we sell it out of the distillery. So it's it is the 3% of our production, so it's just marginal.
Well, as you've done some really unique spirits and whiskeys for the craft spirits industry, you know, if someone's watching and just say whether it's a craft distiller that's currently watching this or someone thinking about getting into craft distilling, what do you think the most important things are when someone considers starting a distillery?
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Okay. Besides that, I mean, obviously you have a lot of intelligence and insight. What would you?
You got to have knowledge of what you're doing,
right?
Which is you have to know what the machinery are doing. It's not just the love of the whiskey is not enough. It's not enough. You're going to get very confused. One thing that if you want to go into this business, you should work for a distillery, any distillery, a rum distillery or a malt whiskey distillery. You have to learn this huge information that are about distilling. Then, if you are a blender or if you are a mixer, then you're going to have your palate, okay? For example, we don't trust anybody in terms of palates. We have a tasting of 5 people. When we start bottling, you know, it's not just what you think today, because today or today you're feeling in a certain way. Yeah, your palate is still there, I understand. But, you know, the palate of any individual is able to capture 200, 250. So you have the 250, but you don't have the 10 that I have. So you have to put a number of people together. So don't trust only your palate or. So if I have to tell a craft distiller to go in business, first go to business school, then go to Scotland or Jamaica or Tennessee or Kentucky,
or all of them, right?
And learn how to do it, because you know, you can get crushed by the law or how to get rid of the post-production waste. You know, for example, the Catskill with the post-production waste is given to farmer as an animal fed. You know, so you know, in the city they throw it somewhere, or they call the truck that goes and sell it to I don't know who, or dispose it I don't know why. It's a complicated business.
Yeah. No, it really is. And I think that the fact that you've created, first of all, something so interesting in your lineup, your whiskeys taste so unique and different, but you've also created something so interesting in this buckwheat to have as something that no one else really offers. I think that's so important for any distiller, to have something that really talks about.
Yeah, but we don't have enough backup in terms of investing in a brand. You know, like, you know, the other element of the business. You know, if we were Diageo or if we were Pernod Ricard and we come up with the Buckwheat spirit, you know, will be a total different production. You know, and we'll be creating the interest of the consumers. Right. Now, we do have the interest of a selected number of consumers that sometimes come from California just to buy a couple of cases. You know, when they are in New York, they come to the distillery and they take it because we cannot ship it. You know, and so they go to the post office and ship it themselves and all this kind of stuff because they like the buckwheat. Okay, so.
But right now, you say you all are able to ship to other states right now, or there's a place online you can do that?
No, you know, directly you have to go through to licensed store that they can ship across the state line. Now, I want to tell whoever follows this.
Yes, please do.
Blog, there may be also some other businesses and so on and so forth. Because of the emergency,
right?
We are allowed to sell to private people,
right?
That you know, call us or send us an email and said, "I would like to have a bottles of your bourbon. Can you ship it in New York?" Normally, we can't. Now, because of this emergency, you can ship it. Okay, because people don't know where to go. The liquor store is far away, or whatever the story is. So this is being lifted, so we can sell retails all in the States.
In the States. So
in the state of New York, but you cannot cross the borderline.
And the best way to find you is, how do they reach you, or where do they find you online?
They can call the distillery, and we normally, if they call from Georgia, we can tell them where to go, or from Florida, Total Wine here, or whatever is there. So we have a list of the retailers.
Right.
They can sell it, okay, or the bar and a nightclub or restaurant that carry it.
So definitely look up Catskill Distilling online. Find those numbers. Reach out to them. Follow them on social media. Try all these. These are all so tasty. It's great to have you joining us, Pietro. It's really.
I'm glad to meet you, and I can see that you're sincere. So I like that. It's not like smoke in the water.
Well, I only invite on people who's whiskey and spirits that I really enjoyed. I really have enjoyed yours for a while, and it's great to have you joining us and talking spirits.
But thank you for the invitation. Thank you, and I hope you understand what I was saying, because I know that I'm convoluted sometimes. So.
No, it's great. I think people have really enjoyed it. A lot of great comments down there. Someone actually asked, is it available in Total Wines? Would we find this in Total Wines?
Yes, they are in Total Wine. Yes, we are.
In Total Wines, you could find those. Again, we tried the.
The liquor business is very difficult. It's very difficult because you don't go to Total Wine and knock on the door.
Right.
You have to be approved. You have to submit application description numbers and vaccines and DNA and then okay, so what you give me, what I give you.
Well, I love that you cook with the wheat. Is there anything you like cooking with the bourbon? Is there anything that you ever cook with the bourbon?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said I really enjoyed your story about cooking with the wheat. Do you cook anything with the bourbon in particular, or do you ever?
Nope. No. The wheat is the one that give us the best results
for cooking. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, for it's expensive to cook with whiskeys, like it's expensive to cook with cognac. Right. But the fundamental rules is, I'm using cognac or I'm using wine for cooking. Don't use a bad wine, because the wine is going to reduce, and if it's a bad wine, you're going to have a bad flavor. So right. The result of the buckwheat was the best of the others because of the wheat, because the wheat has that kind of characteristic. It's sweeter, it's smoother.
Right. Just a question for you. Growing up Italian, and I can imagine how all of your whiskeys would pair nice in some cocktails. But growing up Italian, what do you think about the growth of Italian spirits, Amaros, Vermouth, some of these that we never did see, and in the last 5-10 years, they've really exploded in the U.S.? What do you think about that?
But I hope they're going to have a long life, because as Italian, you go to an Italian bar, you have 10, 15 of Amaro and Vermouth and so on, and you have one whiskey and one tequila if you're lucky. But we are used to, because they have been used as after dinner drinks, and in many different forms, with the ice, with the water, with the soda, with all kind of stuff, I like Amaro, I'm a Fernet drinker, Amaro Verna, Ferrochina Bisleri, that people don't even know. And the little variety now get the consumer to pick the one that they like very much, because they have an edge that is appealing to the palate of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do so
and
much.
The vermouth, for example, now the vermouth evolutions, before was Cinzano and Martini. Nothing against those brands. Please don't get me wrong. But the quality of Cinzano and Martini is, is
right.
There's not here.
Access to.
Now you have Antica Riserva. Now you have the vermouth of is a company in Italy that I know very well. They start importing here. They have a exquisite, and when you made a cocktail with this kind of vermouth, everybody gained. Your whiskey gained. And the consumer says, "God, wow, this is a treat."
Beautiful. It's beautiful stuff what they can do too. And I'm sure even with your bourbon rye, these would be beautiful. What are your favorites, if you don't mind me asking you, that we can find in the U.S. pretty easily?
About
as far as your favorite Amaro and your favorite vermouth that we can find in the U.S. fairly easily.
The favorite that depends from the moment, but I was a fan of Fernet Branca.
Yes, me too.
But Fernet Branca for the export is not the one that you buy in Italy. So the one that you buy here is much sweeter.
You like the one here better?
No, I like the one over there. So the German also are making some fantastic Amari. The Hunterberg. The people from Netherlands, Hunterberg is.
Oh, Unterberg, yes, it's great stuff. Yeah,
that is fantastic. The Petrus Boonenkamp. The operation of Jägermeister was the Amaro for every day. And the American version is also much sweeter than the original one. And the Italian Amaro, you have Amaro del Capo, which is a southern Italy Amaro based on licorice.
Okay,
the Amaro, you know about it?
I think I've heard of this.
Okay, and Averna is still one of the most popular.
Yeah, Averna is nice.
Cynar, Ramazzotti, China Bisleri, they all disappear, and they were good products. You go into a restaurant, you stuff yourself, you pass by a bar, you have a shot of Amaro. Is the liquid plumber, you digest everything.
They're supposed to be cleansing, from what I've heard. I don't know for me if they could be.
No, works.
It could work. So you like the Cynar as well? Is that what you said? The Cynar?
Cynar is much lighter. Is much a summer drink with water, just to keep the flavor. Like Ramazzotti, Cynar. So you're a damn expert, my friend. You know about all those things.
I like the Italian spirits a lot. I was just curious, and those are and the Unterberg. I'm glad you reminded me of that one, because that's one we do see in the little small shots, the little small bottles. That's how I was originally introduced to it. But
that is a superb. Unterberg is a superb amount. Then in Italy you have a variety of small producer. They are not even, their production goes locally and goes to the Italian market. They don't even breach across the water.
Right.
So, like a Centerbe, like 160 proof, a killer. But it's an experience. I put it that way.
I appreciate the suggestions. I just thought it'd be helpful to ask you. Do you have a favorite with the Amaros or vermouths? Do you have a favorite cocktail with any of your whiskeys that you make? That you do just for at home, or just
the classic,
right?
The classic came back very much, and I am one of the classic. So like the old fashions and all these classic elaborations or whatever. But the main thing is a good ingredient. So there's no getting into surrogate. Don't mix our whiskey with some cheap vermouth. So.
Right, use the highest quality you can. That's always going to be the best cocktail, the best pour. I completely agree. Your whiskeys are wonderful, and the buckwheat is so special. Definitely check out, and thank you all so much for watching. If you watched this and you got here, halfway through, go back and watch it. Share it on your social medias. We do this every night. And the place we do it is bourbonblog.com/live.
I hope that I've been some help in your.
You're so much fun to talk to. You're so passionate and you're so knowledgeable. It really helps. And you have such an amazing product that I think people need to try and be exposed to. And I think that's why we did this, is to make sure people know about these the bourbon, the rye, the wheat, the buckwheat. It's all really good, Pietro. Well done.
Thank you, Tom. And listen, if you need anything from us, just ring up and send me an email or whatever.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
I like you guys. Very efficient, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend.